Hello and welcome to episode 31 of Chicago Business Podcast, where we introduce leading executives in the area and learn how innovation is changing their industries. I am your host, Drew Sekula, and today we welcome Dr. Gerald Horn, Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Breinfuel, an innovative caffeinated beverage that has recently been introduced to the market. Hello, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Drew, thank you. I'm excited to talk to you.
Yeah, nice to have you on. Nice to meet you. And really looking forward to this one. So as is customary on our show, we'd like to start with the beverage of the day. So why don't you tell us what we're having today and share a little bit about that with us.
This is an Alpha Punch Breinfuel, and we call it a cerebral beverage. I'm a pharmaceutical innovator. I mean, I say that because I have 4 startups and they're all doing well, but I'm a disruptive thinker, and this is a disruptive product. So this product has some of the most natural products you've ever seen in it. The best of what's in coffee, the best of what's in tea, terrific antioxidants, great fuel. You need fuel. Caffeine is not energy. It's a stimulant. So we have to give it fuel. And so I got to take a sip first.
Yeah. I'm gonna join you with the cheers as well.
Thank
slightly
you.
different flavor. I got the Victory Bliss, but
That peach mango. That's a good one. I happen to like this one too. So I was playing around as a Lasik surgeon, because that's what I am. I'm Lasik surgeon to pharma. And I'm like, these are 11-hour days. My wife needs a new boyfriend because by the time I get home on a Friday or Saturday, I mean, I'm toast. So she can't really hang out with me. And my kids are like, Dad, you're dead to us. And it was like, coffee isn't cutting it for me on these 11-hour surgery days. The days were fine. It was the nights. And I started thinking, okay, why is caffeine failing me so badly? I'm like, well, first of all, it's not energy. So I'm taking this stimulant. And what if the problem isn't the caffeine? What if the problem is caffeine needs help and I'm not giving it enough help? It needs fuel. It needs antioxidants, because what's in a coffee bean is zillions of powerful antioxidants. And in a green tea leaf, they must do that for a reason. The reason is our brain easily gets overheated. And so you need those things. So I just started thinking like I was developing a drug, and I put in a caffeine blend. I put in a fuel blend. We can talk about, if you want, an antioxidant blend, and I call it a brain boosting blend. I played with it for a year and a half, just for me. And just at some point, I was like, I just had an intense surgery day, meaning a long day. I just had dinner, and look at me. I'm my usual boring self, right? So I knew it was so predictable now that I no longer crashed. I knew it wasn't just random. So I had some friends of mine try it. Also, Lasik surgeons and doctors that are pretty darn busy, and everyone's having the same experience. So then I had my son try it. So he's in college, and then it really took off. So the college kids call it Adderall without the side effects.
Well, that's a big market there.
They like to study with it. So this is 360 milligrams of caffeine, because that's what supported caffeine needs for your body. That's the difference between, I took 100 before I made this, I took 100 milligrams of caffeine, I put it in water, and I felt sick. And this, I don't ever feel the caffeine. I just feel good, energized, and my brain just feels on.
Yeah. That's interesting. We're jumping right into it there with a lot of detail on the drink, and I'm looking forward to exploring that with you. But maybe we can take a little step back and unpack it with your origin story, and maybe we can and go at it that way. So, are you from Chicago originally, and Why don't we
So
start there?
my parents came off the boat after World War II from Poland on Ellis Island. We were true immigrants, and they settled in Buffalo, New York. They settled in Rochester, New York. How did I say that? I was born in Rochester,
Okay.
and then they moved to Buffalo. So I lived in upstate New York for a couple of years, and around second grade, my dad was great. He was a great doctor also in his own right. But my mom was, strategic, and she goes, "We speak Polish. We barely speak English. And Chicago has the largest Polish community outside of Warsaw. We're going to Chicago." That worked out really well for them. So we wound up in Elmwood Park for a while, and I stayed in Chicago ever since.
Nice. Well, those are familiar stomping grounds for me. I grew up in Oak Park myself, so
Oh yeah.
Johnny's Beef right around the corner. I know the area well.
Well, Oak Park is just iconic, right? It's just neat. A lot of great architecture in Oak Park. Oak Park's a cool place.
Yeah, it was a fun place to grow up, and I moved away from the area and then moved back, and my wife wanted to settle a little bit more away from the city, not quite so urban. So we live in unincorporated DuPage County out towards Hinsdale. So
Nice.
yeah, it's good out here, but I still like to make it back there closer to the city whenever I can. So anyway, that's fun. So you've been in Chicago for quite some time at this point then.
Oh yeah.
Developed your practice here.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about that professional background, because I think that it's one of the interesting things that you bring, really, in terms of your varied background. So you're a Lasik surgeon.
Yes, I love it.
And what is the pharmaceutical stuff that you've been involved in as well?
Well, there's some people have heard of Lumify. Lumify is probably the world's leading eye whitening drop. And in 2015, I think I had this idea for how to make redness go away of your eyes. And it's sort of a big deal because the previous generation tried to do it by making all the blood vessels constrict, and that's not so friendly to the surface of the eye. So you get what's called rebound. People don't realize this, but after a while, you put the drop in, you got to do it faster and sooner and sooner and sooner. It doesn't work as well. And at some point, it causes side effects. The same thing with nasal decongestants. At some point, you can get side effects that are not nice. Sometimes you have to fix them surgically. So I had an idea for how to constrict only the little baby vessels, which are causing all the redness. And so that was a selective constrictor of small vessels. And that turns out not only gets rid of the redness, but the white part of your eye has this layer of these vessels. And when you constrict these baby little vessels, your eye gets white. It's like, if you compared it to the whitest teeth, that's how white your eyes are. And it became a cosmetic hit. We licensed it to Bausch. Now it's Bausch and Lomb. It was called Bausch Healthcare then. So we did a phase 3 trial. We tested the drug. It worked great. Bausch loved it. I called it Luminous. We licensed it to them. I invented it. When we licensed, I have a bunch of patents. We licensed it to them. They called it Lumify. They branded it incredibly well. They've done a great job with it, and it's done great.
Wow. So serial entrepreneur, I guess you don't have a whole lot of idle time yourself, huh? There's one of the reasons you like to develop things like this.
I think my own gut instinct is everybody has something if they can find it. There's just some way they either something they do that's different or something that's their passion. And I came upon mine by accident. And mine is to try to develop things that are different or better, not different, better in some way. And when I started doing drug development, I've said this to my wife for years. I don't care if I don't make a penny on it. It's what I like to do. And for many years, I was right. I didn't make a penny on it. It cost us money, but she put up with it. And that's always been my passion. So I have four pharmaceutical startups. I'm blessed to have a great LASIK practice. I love laser vision correction. I love it. I work with a lot of really smart doctors around the country for a company called Lasik Plus. I'll give them a little plug. And I just love it. I've been around a long time. I've done 90,000 of those procedures. And I'm very nerdy with that too. That's just how I am. So, you know, I mean, life is short. I mean, there's a lot of things to try to accomplish on the planet. And I wasn't intending to create or launch a CPG product, but that's become quite an exciting adventure. And I'm very proud of what's in it. I'm very excited about this combination. It's not just throw it up on the wall and see what sticks. There's a reason for everything in it. And those four blends work together. You know, a nootropic, you know what those are, right? Those are any ingredient that's supposed to be good for your brain, we call a nootropic. There's a lot of things called nootropic supplements, but it's kind of it's a little bit of a space for science fiction and advanced thinking people that want to try things that we don't know how well they work. You know, it's not like an FDA drug where you put it through a trial. So you don't have any real way to know if a lot of the claims are true or not true, which is true in the CPG space too. So on the nootropic space though, caffeine is a nootropic, probably the world's leading nootropic. And you have 4 billion cups of coffee people drink a day. So a lot of caffeine is getting in our bodies, but so are a lot of other things like that are in this product. So each blend, if I took MCTs by themselves, MCTs and brain, you'll see studies that say even if you're not in ketosis, which is the intermittent fasting thing, MCTs have shown great positive benefits for your brain. Collagen, which is here, hydrolyzed collagen in our product. Why did I pick it? Because certain amino acids in there, glycine in particular, great for your brain. So everything in there individually. So that's called a nootropic. So each blend has got like 3 or 4 ingredients that would be called a nootropic stack. And since each of my blends, the 4 blends, they affect each other. So if I have a caffeine blend with the coffee bean and the tea and the caffeine, the fuel blend works with it. It's not just random. I have a sugar called D-ribose because D-ribose doesn't raise your glucose levels. All the other sugars, people say, oh, I don't want to have 5 or 4 grams of sugar because sugar isn't good for you because sugar makes your glucose levels go up. Not this one. Your body makes D-ribose and it's available as a supplement. It actually lowers sugar. So anyway, I needed that because when you drink, think about it from a pharmaceutical perspective. You drink something with caffeine in it. It's going on into your system. It's starting to get absorbed in your body. Where's the support? It's like a Lamborghini. If our bodies want to be Lamborghinis, the caffeine hit the gas pedal. But to take off, we need the fuel. So I don't want to, as soon as you put caffeine in and there's no fuel, you sputter. That's the jitters of your body. That's the wired brain fog that you eventually get sometimes. So step 1, I wanted a release at different times, right? So the sugar releases quickly, doesn't affect your glucose. Glucose is bad for your brain when it goes up. You know, they say diabetics have insulin resistance, right? Mm-hmm. You don't have to be diabetic. When you spike your glucose and you have your hot fudge sundae and you're tired at night and all of a sudden you get extra tired, you have insulin resistance. So the brain has trouble getting the glucose into the cell, just like diabetics do. That happens to us all the time. So I wanted the right blend. So then the collagen protein, it's hydrolyzed, so it's broken down. That's what that means. So now you've drunk this thing, the sugar's coming out, the caffeine blend's starting to come out, then the hydrolyzed collagen peptides come out, and then eventually the MCTs come out, and they affect how fast it goes through your system. And what's in it affects how fast things go through your system, and you get a longer duration. This is a long duration product. Typically, people who drink Breinfuel last 10 or 12 hours.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen 6 or 8, and people process things differently, but it's not unusual to drink this thing at noon and feel it till 10 at night.
Yeah.
I
Well, I'll
think
be a little careful now, but I really like the way it tastes. I think you've done a good job with that.
Thank you.
You sent over some samples, so I tried a couple of the other flavors, and yeah, I've been impressed with it. Must admit, I was a little bit slow to give it a try the first time because of the collagen. You know, me not knowing anything about these drinks, and really, I'm not not too into the whole vitamin
Right.
scene.
Yeah.
I think that that gave me a little bit of pause, but I was surprised. It tasted good, and I was really impressed with it.
Well, no, it's interesting to hear that from you, that because a lot of people are nuts about collagen.
I-
You know, there's a company that sold for $500 million just by creating collagen supplements. So collagen became popular for cosmetic reasons, but it's actually got a lot of other great things about it. So, you know, but you don't really taste the collagen, do you?
No, you don't at all. You don't at all. And no, I think it tastes. I wouldn't say similar, but on par with other energy type drinks. Obviously not.
Which is a lot harder to do when you have 12 ingredients that are not designed to taste good. You got beetroot.
I was going to ask you about that. Can we run through some of those ingredients for us?
Okay. So you have the green coffee bean extract. You have green tea extract. You have D-ribose, a sugar. You have collagen broken down so you can digest it, which is great for your intestinal tract, by the way. If you have IBS or, problems, inflammatory bowel syndrome, collagen is a good thing for that. And then you have MCTs. What are the MCTs? Fat has it has these chains, right? They call them saturated fatty acids and unsaturated. When the chains are small or medium, they don't go into your fat cells. So the fat you don't want, these long chain fats, that's not what's in here. This is healthy fat. Why is it healthy? Because your body uses it for energy right away. Your brain can use it instead of glucose. So it doesn't ever make it into your fat. And your liver can convert it into what's called ketones. So that means if you're fasting, it becomes a terrific energy source then. So anyway, so it's got ketones in it. And then vitamin C and E are together for a reason. If you look really hard, you'll find out that the whole world of antioxidants, to me, is in its infancy. See, I get to be the person who thinks like, what are we going to be thinking down the road? Every generation is thinking something that's primitive, that 20 years later is going to be different. This is my lane. The whole world of antioxidants is going to be different. We call it oxidative stress because right now it gets lip service. What do we think about antioxidants? Oh, eat an orange. Take an emergency. I had my 2 grams of vitamin C today, so I won't get a cold. It doesn't work that way. There's a whole fundamental process going on. We could talk about it if you want, but you can't just take vitamin C. You got all the antioxidants in the coffee bean, which is very potent. You have great antioxidants in the tea, and vitamin C is water soluble, so it's going to go into your cell. Vitamin E is fat soluble. It's going to go into the cell membrane. That's a big deal because all the damage, all the problems come from things happening in the cell and in the cell membrane. So vitamin C and E together are much more potent. Beetroot powder has a lot of great properties. A lot of long distance athletes like beetroot. There's a lot of good features to beetroot. It changes how your vessels dilate. And the pigment is a terrific antioxidant as well. Creatine, completely misunderstood. Creatine, people think it's for bodybuilders. Well, if you take 20 grams of creatine, it's for bodybuilding. And that's a loading dose. Even bodybuilders don't take that every day. They probably take 3 or 4. But you only need like 2 or 3, like in Breinfuel. And what does creatine do anyway, right? Well, when we need energy and we're lifting or we're active and we want energy, what is energy? It's this chemical ATP, right? We learned about it in school. ATP comes from ADP. That much we usually remember. That conversion process, creatine puts it on steroids. That's what it does. It puts the extra P from ADP to get to ATP. So when you have creatine, everything's going better. The brain and body have a lot less work to do to make it all happen chemically. And so then they did studies on creatine in the brain. People with traumatic brain injury on creatine for 6 months have validated studies showing much better recoveries. People with cerebral ischemia, like stroke-like problems, validated studies showing creatine was helpful. So creatine to me was a very facilitating to what I'm trying to accomplish if I want to rev up our bodies with caffeine. So you could say that Breinfuel, if it's designed to make you healthy at 360 milligrams of caffeine when your metabolism's revved up, it's really healthy if you're doing nothing. If it's designed to work well at high metabolism. So zinc is in this product. Zinc, a lot of enzymes work way better when there's zinc in your system. You've heard of zinc being antiviral and antimicrobial probably because of COVID. Well, this used to drive me crazy. You have all this controversy about, remember Plaquenil and all the controversies and, is it good for COVID or bad for COVID? Well, you know what Plaquenil and azithromycin do? They get zinc in your cells, among other things. And I always contended the best thing about a drug or a product or anything, if you get zinc in your cells, every scientist knows intracellular zinc does a lot of good stuff, but it doesn't want to go in your cells. So when you have it in your diet, only a little bit of it gets in your cells. What gets it in your cells? Completely coincidental. What's in a coffee bean is one of those things that gets zinc into cells. It's called quercetin. It's a chemical in a coffee bean. And polyphenols, which are the antioxidants in coffee beans, they push zinc into cells. So you take some zinc in here, plus I already had the other stuff. Now you're getting zinc into your cells a little better. It's almost like if every little thing here has a physiologic benefit and you put them together, that if this product makes it and it's around long enough, you'll see more and more good things from it. We did a cognitive study on 100 people, and we showed two really important cognitive variables that people study. One's called cognitive flexibility. One's called cognitive performance rate. And it was dramatically better on the group on Breinfuel. They were like, I think 24 to 39-year-olds or 49-year-olds. I can't remember. We just did the study. I forgot the limit, but it's an arm's length study. It have nothing to do with the study except I commissioned that we do it. So, this is a different kind of thing, different kind of product in terms of how it's designed to work. And if it lives long enough, I think people will take it regularly. We'll find all kinds of good benefits from having done it. I wouldn't recommend taking any caffeine on an empty stomach. They did a study in Germany on cups of coffee before breakfast and after. Their glucose levels spiked by 50% before breakfast versus after, because there's nothing to help the caffeine along. No fuel yet. So anyway, so this was a personal passion that just represents the way I think. And if I'm developing a drug, what I do, it led me to 4 drugs that are disruptive. One's on the market, one's in phase 3. One became part of an IPO, called a company called Occupier. And one is a little secret project that we're launching in the fall that we're very excited about. We think will be a big deal. So I feel privileged that, I get to play in my sandbox. This is what I feel like. I'm a guy with a sandbox. My toys are over-the-counter drugs and what combinations can you make? And on the prescription side, what do you do to meet the FDA's strict requirements to develop a drug? And now on the CPG side, it's the same thing. These are drugs. I mean, this is not a drug, it's a CPG product. But what we put in our body, those are drugs. Let's not kid ourselves. And we can put good ones in or bad ones in.
How does it compare to coffee in terms of the amount of caffeine that you're getting from a typical cup of coffee versus in one of these drinks?
But yeah, so there's two answers to that. There's you said typical cup of coffee, that would be 90 milligrams of caffeine. But lots of coffee drinkers are not taking typical cups of coffee. There's a Dunkin' Donuts coffee, I think at 300 milligrams. There's a Starbucks coffee, the blonde roast at 360. I found at least 10 brands of coffee that in a cup have 500 milligrams to well over 1,000 in a cup. 10. I have a list of 10 of them. So you're all over the place. But the thing is, I didn't say energy drinks have 500 to 1,000. I said coffee. That's why it works here. This is really coffee without the coffee base, because I took the coffee bean without roasting it. See, you think of it as a drink, like an energy drink, because it's not in a coffee base. And that's the irony of the situation. Coffee does things. People lump coffee and energy drinks together as just caffeinated products, but you'll notice when there was a problem with energy drinks, right, in the history of energy drinks, there were kids drinking too much of it, getting sick, right? At some level, some of those products were really caffeine in water. Well, that's not very well supported. That doesn't have everything in a coffee bean. That doesn't have what's in a cup of coffee. And you'll notice most of the real problems were on the energy drink side. And I'm not bashing them. I think Monster and Red Bull and Bang, I mean, they're successful for a reason, and they have more in it than just water. They have amino acids. They have certain other things in them. So they've at least moved the needle from just caffeine and water. But this is way on the other side of the spectrum. There's more good stuff in this than you'll find in a cup of coffee, because it's got what's in coffee and other stuff. My thought was coffee beans and tea leaves. It's so amazing if you're chemistry driven like me, and you look at the chemicals, it's parallel universes. The universe of what's in a coffee bean and a tea leaf are the same, but they're different chemicals. What a coincidence, right? So human consumption, we need more of what evolved in those beans and tea leaves than animals grazing 1,000 years ago, which is who was eating those coffee leaves and tea leaves, right? Animals that were grazing. Mm-hmm. So that's how my brain works. I'm like, well, we're going to do even more antioxidants because we want more energy than you would get grazing on a little, coffee leaf. And so you need more support. This is a very disruptive little product from that perspective. If somebody wants to grind, if I drink this on a day I didn't do surgery and I had nothing to do, I would just say I felt good. But when I'm in surgery and it matters, and I'm at the end of my day, and I got there at 8 and I left at 6:30, and I'm like feeling really good, and I have dinner and I'm still feeling really good, there's more going on here. Long after the caffeine's gone, those antioxidants are keeping my brain in the game. And as we've evolved this, the greatest poker player of all time by my standards, Phil Hellmuth, unbeknownst to me, got a hold of it and loved it. He became a representative of our brand. He drank it when he played Negreanu the last 2 matches. And he cried. And here's what happened. So the first match, he drinks it on the air. You know what I'm talking about, Phil Hellmuth?
Yeah, of course.
He drinks it on the air, and he tells Negreanu he should try some. And he says, I like it because I get 10 hours of energy and it's level. Keeps me level. He goes, you should try some. Now, Negreanu's vegan. We got collagen in here. I'm thinking of making a vegan version one day. So anyway, they have this match. And halfway through the match, Phil's getting crushed, which isn't so good for our brand, right? So there's $100,000 at stake. Negreanu had won like 96,000. Phil's down to 4. It's 3.5 hours now. All of a sudden, the tide starts to turn. Phil never gets tired. He just never, the whole match. By the 6th hour, I don't know how tired Negreanu was, but Phil had wiped him out. So they had a 6-hour marathon. Phil drinks the Breinfuel. Phil was the one that's alert at the end, and he winds up crushing it. And then they have a rematch a month later, because this is a match of two contrasting philosophies. The gunslinger, the guy who sits down in the bar and he's going to read your mind and he can tell if you're bluffing. That's Phil. That's his strategy. And then there's the new breed. They just absolutely make fun of Phil. You're full of it. You just can't handle the science that's poker evolved to now, because poker is more like chess now. They're calculating the odds on every hand. They're so scientific. So and this guy Negreanu is a great player. And it's called game theory optimized, GTO poker. So he's a proponent of GTO poker. He's studying it, and he's literally bashing Phil. They were intending to take away whatever props he had from his 15 World Series of Poker titles in that first match. And we spent the first hour listening to him belittle Phil. It was actually it was rude. And then Phil comes back and wins, doesn't say one negative word. Negreanu was nice at the end. Then they have a rematch. Starts again. Same thing. 5 hours later, Phil stays alert. Boom. Negreanu loses again. So, I mean, for us, that was like great validation. And so we think it's the mental athlete's drink. There's a lot of mental athletes. You're probably a mental athlete just doing this show.
I'm not sure about that, but it's that's really interesting that he had attributed a lot of the success to that. It had really called that out. I thought that was cool when in looking at.
He's going to be in the World Series of Poker this fall. 48 straight days. He plans to drink it every day before he plays.
Yeah. So did you guys? You said he found it on his own, but have you brought him on as an official sponsor? And
oh yeah, listen. Yeah. So we once we found out he's drinking it, we're like, you've got to be kidding me. And we found out that, one of my son's friends, mentors, lives in Silicon Valley, and plays poker with Phil, and said, you got to try this. Just a complete coincidence. And we said to him, you got to introduce us to Phil. So Phil's a night owl. So you know what that introduction is? It's like at midnight. We're on the phone with him to 1:30 in the morning. He is the nicest guy on the planet. And we could just tell for a startup like us, we have to be very organic. We can't brand like most CPG products can. We need people who really like the product to talk it up. So Phil was that kind of guy. So yeah, we were excited to have him to be, like pretty much the premier ambassador. We have a couple others that are excited to be with us too, but he certainly was the first.
That's cool. That'll give you some great exposure, and things like that make all the difference in the world, I think. How are you handling production?
Well, fortunately, you can't see behind me right now, but we're no longer in my lab where I created this, which was quite a sight. And so, it's a cold fill. We don't have to heat it. That's intentional. So it does have some preservatives in it. And the reason for that is heating is more toxic, in my opinion, for our product anyway, than preservatives, because we don't need much in the way of preservatives. And if you heat your product, you can't have. That's why I think we have the greatest antioxidant blend in the history of beverages. I know that's boastful, and I'm just saying I think. And that's because not only do we have more than I've ever seen in a product, we're not heating it. Everybody heats they do hot fills or they pasteurize because they don't want the preservatives. But a little bit of preservatives, what happens when you heat? First of all, you kill some of the antioxidants. They don't like to be heated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit like a coffee bean, right? So and then on top of it, we all know when we get on our barbecue, we know there's nothing good about the carbon, the meat that gets carbonized that's sitting on a barbecue. That's not what we should be ingesting, right? Mm-hmm. Same thing with roasting things. So those compounds have names. I won't bore you with them. but are they carcinogenic? In 2015, there was a class action lawsuit in California trying to require every purveyor that sold coffee to put a warning on coffee may cause cancer. Now, it turns out the amount of carcinogenic chemicals in coffee, I think it would take 1,000 cups to equal the amount in one cigarette. There is something there. But is it? Coffee's good for you, my opinion, good for you. But the point is, we don't have to have the roast, and so we don't have it. So anyway, so I just think that there's a interesting evolution that this has evolved to. And I think part of what you're getting when you drink that half you had was these great antioxidants. And I'll let you ask me some questions, because I will talk about longevity and antioxidants if there's time and you want to.
Yeah, no, let's do it now. I think
Okay.
that yeah, go ahead.
So I'm going to predict that 20 years from now, we will drink something and we'll have less diabetes and less hypertension and less heart disease, less Alzheimer's. And we will do that with more success than we've ever had on the pharmaceutical side. And the pharmaceuticals will be important because if you break through these preventatives, you're going to need individual pharmaceuticals, one for diabetes and one for your heart disease and one for your brain. But we're going to prevent most of that. And how's that going to happen? So we all know inflammation's bad, right? People talk about that all the time. And we all know you get Crohn's disease, you get irritable bowel syndrome. Before you have heart disease, there's inflammation in the lining of your blood vessels. You get liver organ dysfunction. There's inflammatory changes there. Anything you want to talk about, rheumatoid arthritis, there's nothing that doesn't start with what's called inflammation. Maybe even in the world of cancer. So what is inflammation? Well, our white cells get all upset, right? What's at the heart, fundamental to life? You breathe in oxygen. You use it to get the energy. And oxygen is a molecule, 2 atoms, loaded with electrons. They latch onto each other. What happens if you pull them apart? They are unhappy. They want to suck up some more electrons. So they're like hydrogen peroxide now. So every day of our life since we're little kids, we can either process fuel cleanly or all over our body, it's getting corrupted. And it's all jacked up. It's got little singlet oxygen molecules all over our body. What are they doing? They're damaging whatever's closest to them. They're damaging your brain. They call those plaques eventually. They're damaging proteins. You're going to get cysts. You're going to get DNA mutations because it's called oxidative stress. So this is so primitively fundamental, we don't even talk about it. We just talk about inflammation. Oxidative stress, our body knows, is a bad thing. We have antioxidants in our body. But when we evolved, there wasn't processed food. People did not have drug addiction yet, right? We didn't have alcoholism. We weren't smoking. We didn't have pollution. I don't know if we yelled at our spouses or not, because that causes oxidative stress too. So, I mean, almost anything you do that isn't being, a church mouse or a Girl Scout or a Boy Scout causes oxidative stress. There's a zillion ways you can do it. None of it makes us feel good. We don't go to sleep at night feeling good when we're in it. Our stress hormones go nuts. So if you could suppress it dramatically and put out the fire, you'd have less cell mutations. You'd have less of this early, and it keeps on aggregating every decade, right? So by the time you're in your whatever age, 30s, 40s, 50s, whenever it hits you, that damage has been going on for decades. not, maybe it isn't this drink, but something in this direction with powerful blends. The antioxidants can't just be one, because it's not like we think of a concept, antioxidant, we'll take one, we'll anti the oxidation. It's a whole different way each one works. Each one gets into certain cells and not in others. More potent for this, less potent for that. Some, as I said, go in the water side, some go in the membrane side. This is, I threw the kitchen sink of antioxidants into this beverage. How well is that going to work for longevity? I don't know. But someday along this line will be, I predict, the next big breakthrough in health. And so, in my opinion, it should come with caffeine, because there's a lot of great things that are healthy about a cup of coffee. And this is like a cup of coffee, but on steroids, right? But more. So that's why I'm excited about this, because to me, it's like me talking about a drug I developed.
Yeah, it's very cool. What about from a distribution standpoint? What are you guys looking at there? And
yeah, really, you ask really good questions. Keep in mind, we've now been launched since Christmas. Not the best time to launch. We were originally hoping to launch late spring. That was naive of me to think. My flavor house, the day I was going to bring my samples to a flavor house to finish the product, right? I cannot cook, bake, or come up with the flavors. I can come up with the rest of it. I need professional help to flavor it. This is not Gerald Horn's flavors. And we'll keep evolving the flavor. So the day I went to bring the samples, they closed because of COVID. And so all that time I'm living in the COVID world, and then you couldn't even get bottles. You know that, because everyone's using for hand sanitizer. So we wound up launching pretty much in 2021. And so we've been launched for 3 or 4 months. We have had, and people will tell you, if you're a CPG startup in the beverage space, you're not going to try to scale retail on a national level your first year. You'd be nuts to do it. People don't even know what Breinfuel is yet. On the other hand, you've been getting a lot of traction. So we have a retail pilot we've been doing with a major national retailer that's gone extremely well. We were very gratified. So it looks like we're going to launch nationally. And I don't think we have more bandwidth than to do that right now with this chain. And if that happens, which looks like it will, so that'll be the second half of this year, we'll probably launch in, not all their stores. We'll do it kind of regionally, maybe a third of the country, and probably then expand if it goes well. So that's kind of exciting for us. And that leads to other retail opportunities. We're just trying to strategize. So we'll probably strengthen our e-commerce targeting. Who is our really perfect customer? We're kind of learning who that is. And that's what's happening the rest of the first half of this year. And the second half, we will hopefully launch with the retail chain, which we've done the pilot in. Other chains are talking to us now. And I would imagine next year you'll see us in a bunch of places. So we're doing another pilot on the retail side, more local, but large. And so we're just getting started on retail. We had the privilege of talking to the people who created RX Bar, because they're Chicago based. They're brilliant. And they did extremely well. And the first thing they told us was, we spent the whole first year figuring out who liked our product, why they liked it, and making sure they loved it. And their target was everyone that was into CrossFit. We said we changed the packaging. We changed the ingredients. We thought they were going to like egg whites or so. I forgot the details, but they didn't care about that part. They liked another protein. We did whatever made them happy. And then we went into retail the next year, and guess what? We had a better margin, because they're more excited to have us, because everybody knew who RX Bar was by then. So they kind of told us, don't rush into retail. You're a startup. The word has to spread. Does everybody know what RX Bar is? I don't know about everybody, but a lot of people. Does everyone know what Breinfuel is? I don't think so. We got a ways to go. So that's my answer to you, and a long-winded answer. We've started it. We've established a foothold in it. If we launch with this chain, and it will be nationwide, you'll be able to get it anywhere, quite frankly, with just this one chain. That's a good way for us to start.
In the meantime, for people who want to try, you do have, they can order it off your website. Is that right?
Only if you can spell brain wrong. It's Brein. Forget the A. Everybody's got a brain. We got the only Brein brain. Breinfuel. Breinfuel.com. I think you can get there if you spell it the regular way too, but that's how we spell it.
All right. From a investment standpoint, have you been bootstrapping this the whole way up until now? Or are you looking for funding, or where are you at from a financing perspective?
A little of both. A little of both. I did have a reasonable number of investors that came over from the pharma side. Although one of my pharma investors is sort of famous for a beverage that he did, Sobe.
Oh.
And he wound up investing in another beverage company before I created this product. And so a lot of my pharma investors invested in him, and they've kind of had enough of that. But we got some investors from the pharma space, and I've done some bootstrapping. It's been pretty much what I want it to be right now, because I'm bullish and the value isn't where I want it to be 3 months into launch. So I don't want to get totally diluted, but I think strategic investors is what we're looking for. People who invest in us that can invest again. We're not ready for VC yet. We're not quite at that rate, but we're getting there. So I think the traction is good. I think by this fall, we'll be looking for more serious investment.
Very good. Are you still working? With your son on the business as well?
Oh yeah, my son crushed it. I couldn't do this without him. He's way smarter than I am. If he was talking to you right now, you'd understand the product better. I invented it. He can explain it better.
Nice. That's fun to be
It's
able
a labor
to.
Of love. I want you to
sorry.
say it's a labor of love to have your son do something like this with you, especially when he's so talented and so, he's just selfless about it. He would never tell you that, but I mean, he's amazing.
That's great. That's great to be able to have that bond. I actually worked with my son a little bit on the production of this podcast, and I know, he's just 12-year-old kid, but we have a lot of fun in it, and I get a lot of enjoyment out of doing some of that work with him as well. So
that's life. That is life. That means a lot to me, because I mean, that's such a great thing you can do with him. You're not just at work. There's something more going on. I think that's perfect. It's great.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot in it. So very good. So in terms of what do you think was the most challenging part so far?
Well, I think the most challenging part so far clearly was producing the product from the point of view of not the ingredients, but all the technical details of a launch. Getting the FDA labeling correct, getting a co-man that would even do it. By the way, they're not easy to find for a startup. Some of these co-mans are running 24/7 with big brands. So I think that was fairly challenging. And then I think assembling the right team is challenging. In the CPG space, nobody cares how good something is for you if you can't get their attention. I'm the same way. If you can't get my attention with marketing, I don't think you're a good company. They go together. And the ones that get your attention best, they're really organic. Like whatever they do is consistent. So getting all that worked out for Breinfuel, getting the target, the consistency, our DNA to be everywhere. Our DNA is to be real, to be organic. So we have to be trying to be that way. Be supportive. Someone told me a story about a major brand, and they've done things without even promoting themselves and having their name on it because it was good for the users of their product, and they were helping them. So we have to evolve our own DNA, our own charitable side, our own identity. That's challenging to get that all expressed and done.
Nice. How do you see the business developing then? Obviously, you're looking for wider distribution. Is that really your primary focus as you look out over the next several months?
I don't think the world is quite the same as it was before. I think we could be a big success and just we could have an online presence and crush it. But that's not what's going to happen. We're going to have a retail launch. I think we're going to be worldwide in 2 years. There are people out there. This is such an amazing world. There's people out there that could scale us right now around the world with a reasonable business opportunity. And so I'm not ready to go there yet, but I'm just saying the opportunity is huge. And my personal thing is, I'm like the chief imagination officer, really, because I see a relaxation skew. I see a better way to drive when you drink this in a different form. So I see other options for this product. That's my personality, right? So 2 years from now, we'll see. You never want to assume you won't fail, because they say 97% of startups fail in the CPG space. But I think we're gonna get there. I think we're gonna be big. I think it's gonna be. If I say big, I think big means to me that people benefit from it. It's got a reason. It's got a reason to be there besides taste.
Yeah. You made a couple of comments earlier saying if it lasts long enough. What were you meaning by that?
You mean if we do?
I don't know. You had said something like that earlier in the interview.
Yeah, I would say when you're a startup, you have barriers to entry that are incredible, that have nothing to do with how good your product is. There's a giant concrete wall that you can't get through. You can't get press from major press. You can't get attention easily. To get a foothold takes a lot of money, and you better have something that makes people start to go crazy about it. So that's what I meant. So we started out, what people would drink this and you'd get little ripples. They would tell their friends and tell their friends. Like our reorder rate is like high for a startup. So to make it, you need that to keep growing and growing and growing your first year, or you won't make it. And that's what's happening. But I don't want to jinx it by acting like, I guarantee we're going to be, as big as Monster or Red Bull. It's just like, it's not how the world works. Monster and Red Bull are once little companies.
Yeah, they've done all right for themselves. So
They deserve it. They're brilliantly developed and marketed, but it's a completely different kind of product.
Right. Well, do you you obviously have a lot going on. Do you find time to get involved in any kind of community giving back to the community or anything like that as well?
Well, Drew, I guess I did one good thing that helped me there. I married up. So my wife, God bless her, she helped sponsor 4 immigrant families to leave Syria the day Donald Trump said no. So the plane is in the air. We didn't know if they'd get to land. It was in Chicago. It was a big commotion. It had national press, whether this plane would get to land or not. And she was really instrumental in this all happening. And so one of the things we've done, thanks to her, is we've supported these immigrant families coming here. Remember, we were immigrants from Poland, and you should see these families, man, their kids and how well they've done. It's been 4 years now, and their work ethic, and that whole thing. So I think that's probably one place we've had a chance to be charitable. The rest is mostly all my wife.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a partnership. I know how that goes, and that's great that with your wide and varied interests that you still have found time to give back as a family. So that's great. I really appreciate your time today. Fascinating to hear about your product and your journey to get it where it is today. Best of luck
Thank you.
as as you continue that journey. And I'm definitely
Thanks,
looking
Joe.
forward to seeing how it all comes together for you.
Well, drink the half that you were going to drink. I'm going to drink this one over here, this big blue one. And I've enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, me too. Well, let's stay in touch, and
Fine.
And best of luck.
Thank you, Drew.
All right.
Be well.
Take care. Yeah.
Take care.
Bye-bye.